Welcome into the Pats Nation. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast, you can catch us. And hey, when you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. There it is on the screen right there, Joe. Click, like the show, give us that thumbs up there, get all our notifications, and check out our shorts, our reels on our shorts, little short videos, a minute, 2 minutes. You know, some people can't take you. They can only take you, Mark, in small doses. You know?
Yeah, I know.
So
just me.
Just you. So we have some of those up. They're very popular. So check those out. Make sure you're commenting on there. We'll read one of them on the show. So if it's a pretty good one, we did last week. But we got a good one today. We got going to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline, and of course, go back in the week and weekly rewind. Talk about this Diggs signing. And go into the coach's room and coach's corner. How are we going to use these people, these guys, these players? And in Pat's preview, we're going to talk draft. What do they do now? Are they done at free agency? What do we think they're going to do? Good morning, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
If I have to hear that song one more Sunday. No,
let's do it every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Just be thankful I'm not singing something else.
Yeah, seriously.
Over here. How you doing, Mark?
Oh, wonderful. Just ducky.
Ducky. What the hell does that mean? It's good. Is that good? Because I'm never good. So
I'm doing all right. Listen, another Sunday down means we're another Sunday closer to football season.
Yeah.
That's the way
here's how I look at it. It was already 95 degrees here.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, we're just happy we get sunshine over here every now and again.
Oh.
That's all, Joe. Right?
Pissed off. It's too soon. Too soon for that.
Too soon.
But what it's not too soon for is to hear from one of you in the nation. And let's do that in Heated Hotline. Joe. Joe, where's the where's the
Oh, don't bring that up. We had a little audio issue with that. So you know what? I was like,
scary, like Halloween.
Let me kick right in and so he doesn't say anything, but yep, he caught it.
Joe, are we in like retrograde or something? What's going on?
You know what? I believe we are actually.
It's a subtle thing. It's a real subtle thing.
Subtle. But this one I wanted to bring back in because of the Diggs signing. So we have Bill from Smithfield. We read him yesterday on CORSO CATONE. But he says, I love the Diggs signing. It shows that they are willing to spend a little for a wide receiver. But do you think they're still cheap bastards, or does this show that they have solved that? But if they think this guy is the answer at 31 with a bad wheel, then they're more delusional than I thought they were. I'm not yet convinced. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bill, as we did yesterday, thank you, Bill from Smithfield. Yeah, it's a good one. It's good to get us into this. So 3 years, $69 million deal, 26 evidently could be guaranteed, or however the language is used. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. That's not, put it this way, that 26 I don't think is fully guaranteed, which matters for this topic in this segment, you know. So answer his question. The first question, which is, so are they still cheap? And then the second question I think was, do they think this solves their number one receiver issue?
Well, I'll say this, and I think you want to talk about this first, Chris, is the fact that you want to, and I'm shocked, but you want to give them credit for spending a little bit of money here, don't you?
Only for this, okay? I will say this. And I said this yesterday on CORSO CATONE, the real deal, New England Field, Saturdays at noon. Anyway, I'll give him credit because you had two 31-year-old wide receivers. Now, let's just assume that both guys wanted to come here. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll make that assumption that Cooper Kupp would have come here. Okay, for the same money he signed in Seattle. So, yeah, two 31-year-old receivers, both with injury issues, albeit Diggs has a huge injury issue with the ACL, but both have injury problems. And you chose the guy that you were going to have to pay more money to. So in that sense, I got to give them the nod on that. I mean, they paid more than than Diggs probably would have gotten at Kansas City or anywhere else. They had to pay more for him in that 3-year deal. So I'll give him props for that. I mean, I'll give him props for that, but Mark, go to the other end of that, which is the $30 million a year guys, you know?
So listen, okay, we're going to give him props. So he signs for what, 26 million?
Guaranteed.
I guess guaranteed, and the overall contract is what, 69, right?
Yeah.
So 23 a year technically,
Roughly,
but he'll never see the money. So it's really a $26 million deal, Chris. 13 a year in incentives. It's probably about 30 million, probably 15 a year, I'm guessing, with incentives and you know how to play that game,
3.
Right? He'll never see year 3. He's not going to see year 3, believe me. Because they're not going to pay that money.
He's not going to get all his money.
He's not going to get old. And I think he's okay with that, Chris. He'll take 30 for 2 years. You know, at his age, why not? So, yes, I give him credit. As you just said, Chris, they did spend money on a 31-year-old receiver. They spent more than they would have probably paid for Kupp. They realize it's a need. However, DK Metcalf, all we heard was, well, he's a diva, and he won't be good for a young Drake May, and we don't want to subject Drake May to that, and he's not good for the culture of what we're trying to build here.
Oh, God.
But Diggs...
You said the C word.
But Diggs, who's fighting on the sideline with Josh Allen, arguing with him, he's okay for culture, right?
And what happened in Minnesota, too.
Yes, he's okay for culture, Chris, because he's 2 years, $26 million. DK Metcalf, Chris, was going to cost you a heck of a lot more money in guaranteed money, and you were going to have to spend probably $28-30 million a year.
Oh, in the 30s. Yeah, you're at 30.
In the low 30s. So, of course, that's why they got Diggs and not DK Metcalf. Now, did they
didn't even try. They didn't even make a phone call on Metcalf. Because he's too bad of a culture guy.
Come
that's
on,
why.
That's such BS.
You know.
Please.
Yeah, Mark, we talked about this. We've talked about this at length, about this culture thing. And, I said it yesterday, too. The more I think about it is the team put out that culture stuff. Yes, they talked about culture. We want to bring in guys that are a good fit. But that was a very small remark. Where it's coming from is media.
Yeah.
That's where it's coming from.
Oh, that really drove you nuts because you think the media is fueling this. They're like they're puppets.
They are fueling it because we know that they're cheap. We know they don't want to spend money on that position. We know they won't and don't want to. And that's the real reason. So why Tom Curran? Why Phil Perry? Why Burt Breer? Well, when they ask these guys the question, are they cheap? Well, I mean, I will say this. I will say that finally Michael Holley of NBC Sports Boston, finally he came out when the poll question was asked, are they cheap? He said, yes. Yes, they're cheap. I think he was filling in for Felger on the show.
Yeah, he was.
Who's been saying it all along. All the other guys, and they want to keep pumping that narrative, Mark, of, they don't want to bring a guy, like you just said, about they don't want to hurt Drake May's, progress and that young receiver room. They don't want to bring a guy in there that's all that crap. It's crap because here's Stephon Diggs, who you said did all this stuff. But then they make up for that and say, well, but everything you heard out of Houston was he's not like that. He's no longer like that. So I think he is these guys are like, I think he is a good culture fit. I think he's going to be great for the locker room. I think he's going to be great. They're puppets, Mark. They're just extensions of Kraft, these media guys. That's all it is. They don't ask hard questions because they don't want to get their press pass pulled. And you and I don't give a shit about that.
Well, because we're jealous. We're jealous because we don't have one.
No, they're never going to invite us there. Like they're never going to invite Felger there because they say it the way it is. Force this team to be transparent.
Chris, but listen, what are the three? I'll say three, maybe four. What are the four big money positions on an NFL roster? Quarterback,
wide receiver, tackle,
left tackle,
an edge,
corner, edge.
Corner,
okay.
Defensive end, yeah.
Do we have a true number one wide receiver? No. Do we have a true, bona fide, legit left tackle? No. Money. Do we have a quarterback? Yes, but rookie deal. You're not spending money. Rookie money. Your best corner, rookie deal. You're not spending any money on your best corner. Now you went and spent a little money on the other corner, but technically, when you dig deeper into the numbers, it's only like a 2-year deal, and they'll dump him. Because then they're going to have to give money to Gonzalez. So when you look at the big money positions, Chris, they're really not spending any money. on those positions.
No, and you know, you can say, well, if they drafted better, then
Yes, I agree with that.
If they drafted better. Yeah,
I agree with that. That's a fair comment.
That is absolutely fair. But here's the pushback. They are still cheap. You know what they are? They are still cheap. They are still cheap. Here's the thing. We're a weekly show, so we got to talk about it. But we pause the conversation. Okay, if they draft Travis Hunter, okay, which I think they should, because to me, we'll get into this later on in the show about what that does to their locker room and so on. But if they draft Hunter, come and see me in year 3 with him. Let's say he explodes and he's one of those guys. I'll change my opinion when they pay him. When that contract comes due again, and it isn't Tavai, and it isn't Hunter Henry, and it isn't Ramondre Stevenson, and any other stiffs that they paid on this team last year just to get up to the cap with number they needed to, okay? You pay Travis Hunter the money it's going to take to keep him, and you pay Drake May the money it's going to take to keep him, I'll back off. But not until then.
Okay.
Which means you got to draft better. So, do they think he's still a number one? Do they think they got their number one? I guess we'll see in the draft, won't we?
We'll see in the draft. I don't think, Chris, I think they know he's not a number one.
I can't imagine Vrabel thinks that.
No, I don't think Vrabel thinks that, Chris, but I do think they figured maybe they got a little bit of a stopgap to develop somebody for 2 years, right?
I like the signing.
Yeah, I like the signing. I definitely like the signing, Chris.
We said it last week before they did it that we want him here because I like that kind of guy in the locker room. I want somebody to get in somebody's face. Yeah.
Well, the one thing he will do, Chris, the worst room of your whole team last year was the wide receiver room because you had guys acting like divas who haven't done one thing in this league. How the hell are they acting like that?
You got the best hands in football.
Polk said I got the best hands in football. You haven't played more than 5 games and you stink. And you're saying you got the best hands in football? Really?
It's ridiculous. It is. It's ridiculous.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. So you needed a guy.
So for that sense, Chris, I think Diggs will be good for the room because Diggs is going to say, "Kid, go shut your bleep mouth and sit in the corner because you ain't done shit in this league yet."
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like he'll tell the guys
put your pinky back in your mouth and shut the hell up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So in that sense, Chris, you want to creating culture. I think he'll do some of that dirty work for Vrabel because he'll be the leader in that room and say, "Kid, shut up and watch film. You don't even know what you're running for a route."
Yeah.
Like I think you may get a little of that because I think, Chris, part of his frustration in Buffalo was some of those receivers that were with him were not very good.
Well, he didn't like what Allen was doing too.
Yeah, Allen was running a lot more
games.
back then. Yeah, and I think he was frustrated. Get me the damn ball, and they weren't.
Because Allen wets himself in every big game.
Yeah.
In every playoff game, and it pissed him off. Listen, I mean, he saw the window. I'm fine with having, we said it all along, we're fine with having guys like that in the locker room, which is why we wanted Metcalf. I don't care, And I will say this, for all those who are worried about the culture crap, look at how he was with Nico Collins and look at how he was with C.J. Stroud last year. Young guy, pretty much the same as what you got in New England if Travis Hunter shows up.
Tank Dell, young guys.
Yeah. So, he was good for the locker room, like the signing. Are they done? Because you're hearing more of this nonsense about, hey, bring Keenan Allen in, or bring not Keenan Allen as a culture guy because but Amari Cooper will be good for the room.
I don't want Amari Cooper.
We got a guy that's good for the room. Now now go draft Travis Hunter, right? I mean,
if he falls in your lap, yeah.
So are you convinced? Are they not cheap anymore? Are you gotta help Bill? You gotta help Bill. You gotta get Bill to be focused on
Bill.
one
Listen, Bill. Listen. They spent a little bit of money. I'll give them credit. They're still cheap until, like Chris said, they spend the big money on May or a guy like Hunter. Then we'll see. They spent a little money. Okay, fine, but they're still cheap, Bill. They're still cheap.
I'll tell you. Last thing I'll say before we go. I'll tell you who I want them to go out there and get. I know he's 160 years old, but Tyron Smith, sign him. He's a distressed asset now.
Listen to me. I know he's a distressed asset, but Buffalo signed him for $10 million last year. You got $10 million. Give him another $10 million 1 year. Jets. I'm sorry. Give him another $10 million contract 1 year. Put him at left tackle, and then if you
play
draft
10
somebody,
games,
Chris, then if you draft somebody, you can develop them. If this guy can give you 10 to 12 games at left tackle,
That's better than anything else you got on the team. And so, okay, so your left and right tackle are two aged guys, but, at least they're experienced guys.
If you draft a couple of young guys and develop them.
And so I think that's something they should do. I'll feel a little better about them if they go and do something like that too. So we'll see what happens there. But, Bill, we thank you for the email. Heated Hotline was presented by Corso and Catone. The Real Deal New England Field Saturdays at noon. Hey, you got Catone's comments. You got B's and C's, Yankees versus Red Sox. It's all there. So make sure you're tuning into that. But when we come back, going to go back in the week and weekly rewind, no flipping. The Real Deal New England Field. What does that mean? We're like you. We're going to bitch about everything.
My opinion, our draft, the good, the bad, it was ugly.
These people, Mark, drive me freaking insane. Bananas.
It's so frustrating and aggravating. I can't take it.
The Real Deal New England Field. It's going to be real. Back in with more Pats Nation. All right, Mark, it's had some things done in Weekly Rewind. Obviously, we know they signed Diggs, but we need to get deeper into that, and we're going to do it in Weekly Rewind, and we're going to do it now. I'm getting it. Going back through the week, about a Weekly Rewind. All right, Mark, so we talked about the numbers, the numbers as far as his salary and all of that. And so now I want to get to the football, which is really what matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, of course.
When he's going to get on the field, and we want to hear from Burt Breer in a second, as soon as Joe's queued it up. Want to hear from him because we want to talk about when's he going to get on the field, first of all, with that ACL. What kind of production is he going to get? But this is what Burt Breer from MMQB said this week.
Had a Buffalo coach say, like, the response when I asked about him, and this is a guy who worked with him closely, I effing love him. Another coach who worked with him, was an important piece for him in Minnesota, said absolutely he's one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. The guy is a warrior. So that's his reputation. Again, can he be a pain in the ass? Yes. He has that receiver thing, which is the best way for my team to win is to get me the ball. If you can manage that, if he can manage that, then this is a guy who can lift other boats for you offensively.
Agree?
I don't know, Chris. At 31 years old, coming off an ACL, can he still lift other boats, as Breer says? Can he do that?
Well, when the boats are sinking and they're crappy boats, maybe. You know, I mean,
how does he lift these other boats? Is it because he's got the ACL, he's going to be working on that he can tutelage, or does he lift other boats by showing them how to operate?
Well, both at different stages. Yeah, I get the question.
That's what I'm saying.
Both at different stages, right, Mark? I mean, you know, when he's not going to be playing during OTAs, he's not going to be on the field, but his presence will be felt.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be able to talk to these guys, and he's going to be able to make them understand, you know, route concepts and how to read a damn playbook, how to watch anything, how to do really anything, how to not run into each other out there, perhaps, maybe.
Well, no, yeah. So, Joe, that's a good point, Joe. But I do think Chris is right. He's not going to be out there doing OTAs in May and June. He'll probably be on a bike or on a backfield rehabbing. But I'm sure he'll be on the sidelines watching when they're doing drills with the receivers. And I think he can pull guys aside and point and say, look, what the hell are you doing over there? You're supposed to be over here. Like, you totally missed the break. Like, I think those types of things, Joe, that he'll do with these guys, I think. And then once he is able to get on the field, I think he'll take control of the league, the room, and I think he will be the go-to guy for Drake. Listen, when he was in Houston, Chris, they gotta realize that he wasn't the main guy because they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell, so he was just a guy there. He was putting up good stats. He would have probably ended up, Chris, with like 95, 100 catches, maybe 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, he was catching on an average 6 for 60 in every game. He played 8 games, and he caught 47 passes, just shy of 500 yards, 3 touchdowns in 8 games. So, projecting that out, if he played say he played 14 games, not a full season, just I say 100, close to 100 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns probably.
Listen,
as the number 2,
which is much better than what you got. Leaps and bounds better than what you got in this damn room.
It's like 50 catches more than the next guy. I mean,
here's the analogy I make, Chris. Is he Jefferson, Chase? He's not one of those guys
anymore. No.
Not anymore. He was 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Well, let me rephrase that. He was never Chase or Jefferson, but he was a true number one receiver in this league. He was legit, right?
He was the best receiver in football for a bit. Yeah,
he's not that guy anymore. But Chris, even if he's the 18th or 19th best receiver in football now, that's a hell of a lot better than what you got in this room.
Well, since all your guys were at the end
50,
of the line.
60, and 70th best guys, 80th.
Some guys didn't even register.
They didn't even register. They didn't even make the list. So if you've got the 17th or 18th best receiver in football, I'm okay with that if you're getting that out of a 31-year-old, Chris.
If you have the understanding, okay, that he's a 2. If you have that understanding that this guy
on your team, he's a 1, but he's actually a 2. He's
I
a 2.
don't hear that. See, that's what I don't want to hear. That's what you're hearing from those people. Yeah. If they need to understand that we still,
but Chris, because your wide receiver room sucks. That's the reality.
It's true. I mean, he's technically a 1 on this team, but he's not a 1. And my hope is that the coaching staff understands. I don't care what the owner understands, but I hope the coaching staff understands. This is not a solving the problem. We still don't have a number 1. We got a
by no means.
Number 2s, fine. Hopefully, if he comes back from that injury, right. So, but he's still a number 2. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's great. I think he'd be great for this team. I think he'd be great for Drake May and all of the above. Now, when does he come back? See, when is a good realistic? Now, he got hurt right around Halloween. The 9-month mark will be about starting in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying they expect him, and he expects him because of how he's been rehabbing to be ready for week 1. That's what they're saying. That's, I think, aggressive. For me, I would say he's on PUP till about week 4, and then he comes back.
Makes sense.
Is it as much about the date he comes back or the condition he's in? Because he can come back in week 4, but what is he going to actually be? Or is it going to take the whole season now? And we don't really see the fruits of this until year 2 of this contract.
And maybe that's why they gave him the 2 for 26, because they are thinking year 2, maybe you get the most benefit out of him.
Right.
And if you get a receiver like a Hunter to drop in your lap, okay, so now maybe next year, the following year 2, when he's ready to really be himself, well, he's a number 2 receiver because you have a number 1 now. Anyway.
Yeah. And when we go in Coach's Corner, we're going to talk about what that room is going to look like with Diggs in there and the guys they have, and we'll assume Hunter.
Chris, but what will he bring with McDaniels' offense? What will Diggs bring? So everyone keeps talking about, I like the signing. He's this, but no one's talking about, Chris. None of these guys around here talk about, but what does that mean in McDaniels' offense? How does he actually fit what? Now, listen, I know supposedly McDaniels is tweaking things and changing things, and it's not going to be the Tom Brady offense. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a version of it with all different variables to it that I think will suit Drake May. Fine. But how does Diggs fit into that, Chris, based on what you know of Diggs?
Yeah, the intermediate route concepts of what, this offense has been built on forever. Not really those deep downfield throws. It's really the intermediate stuff. So a lot of whip routes where you go in and then boom, outside, where you see a lot of routes stem, and at the top of the routes, back shoulder throws. This is what this guy can bring. A lot of back shoulder throws, 8 to 10 yard downfield routes. Those kinds of things, maybe breaking that tackle, going for an extra 5, inside slants, little sluggo routes to breaks for seam routes, little those slant and go routes, things like that, crossers. This is what this guy brings to the table, because what happens is he's a name. So, you can't, you're still, as a defensive coordinator, you still have to come into the Patriots game saying, we can't just ignore this guy. We got to account for him. Can I press him? Can I press him without having somebody over the top? So if I got to play off him, now I've subjected myself to how good of a route runner he is, and how he can stem a route and then drop his ass down and come back for a back shoulder throw. So those intermediate routes is what you're really going to see if he's healthy, if that knee is right, Mark.
And Chris, I think that is actually beneficial to him, because when he was with Buffalo, when he was with Minnesota, Chris, he tried to take the top off the field at times, and that was kind of some of the stuff he did. Well, in this offense, he won't have to do that, because he's probably isn't going to have that breakaway burst coming out of the ACL injury, Chris. Maybe in year 2 he gets that back, but next year, Chris, you probably won't see that burst out of him, especially not at the beginning.
No, and I think a lot of read routes, you'd see him in motion. They'll put him in motion a lot. They'll motion him to get into a slot to a good. They'll get him in motion for a good matchup, to get on a mismatch and things like that. So yeah, I mean, he definitely brings the experience level, brings a lot to the table, and his precise route running, I think, is hopefully will still be there, especially if you get a guy like Hunter in this group too. But yeah, that's what he brings to the table, in my opinion. So I like that. Now, talking about, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I'm doing all the talking. I mean, what do you like about this with him?
Well, I think what you just said is, and that's why I asked it. I wanted to see if we were on the same page. And yeah, I think, Chris, he's going to give you all those things in the middle of the field, the intermediate routes, that he's going to give you that. And I think coming out of the injury, that's what he's going to have to give you. And I think that might be, Chris, one of the reasons why he signed here was because I think he probably realized that the strengths of what McDaniels runs will help him coming out of this injury. Now, one of the marquees that he always had, Chris, was separation, right? He could separate from guys. He could separate from guys in the seam. If you put him in the slot and you ran him into it, you ran him in the seam, or he could go and take off, and he could separate. And now, whether he still can do that, Chris, coming out of the injury, we hope he can. But that was always one of his strengths, Chris. He was able to separate from defenders. We didn't have a guy in that damn locker room that was able to separate from a defender. And you kept saying, oh, here, never mind the fact that they can't run a route. They can't separate from anybody, Mark.
Which helps who?
The quarterback.
It helps
the offensive line.
Absolutely.
But he should be able to separate, Chris. That was always his calling card, that he could separate. Now,
so if he could still do some of that, you're going to protect that offensive line you still don't have that left tackle. And it also allows you to go take a guy like Hunter and not worry so much about, well, I'm going into the season without the first pick being a left tackle, which we'll talk about in the next couple segments. So just a couple of things before we break. If you look at the team's record that he played on, the records,
yep.
I mean, he's never been part of a loser. I mean, the worst, 11-5. The worst was 8-8 in 2016 with the Vikings. But he's 11-5, 8-8, 13-3, 8-7-1, 10-6, 13-3, 11-6, 13-3, 11-6, 10-7 last year. Now, he was not as, we'll take your last year off because he wasn't a main factor as to why Houston got where they got. But this guy's been a winner. He's wins. He's a playoff guy. He's.
But Chris, you made an interesting point the other day when they got Diggs. You said, Mark, if Diggs stayed healthy with Dell and Nico Collins, if those three guys all stayed healthy, you said, guess what? Kansas City gets beat in that playoff game.
Badly.
Houston beats them.
Badly. Bad. They would have gotten beat bad because Kansas City would have had to employ the same kind of game plan they did against Philly. And you can argue that they got weapons like Philly's got weapons. You can argue Houston's got.
If those guys were healthy.
Yeah.
They went into that game with no Diggs and no Dell.
So either Mixon's going to kill you in the run game or those guys are going to kill you on the outside. But Stroud could kill you on the ground. So I thought they would have got killed. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. It's a good signing. I like what they did. Let's temper it and see how this guy comes back. But Weekly Rewind was presented by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CORSOLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. We come back on to go in the coach's room. Coach's Corner is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pats Nation. Okay, Mark, want to talk about Diggs? I'm going to talk more about Diggs and that whole wide receiver room and how things, we talked a little bit about how he's going to be used, but collectively, let's do it in Coach's Corner. Joe.
Coach's Corner.
Okay, so like we talked about, you asked me what are some of the things he can bring. We both talked about that, the separation and so on. Now how he fits in on the football field, what's the wide receiver room? Do you want to assume they have Hunter for this? Or you want to go both? Assume yes, assume no. We'll do both.
We'll go both.
All right, let's assume they draft Hunter.
Okay.
And then in the early second round, we're going to get to that in Pat's preview next. But let's assume they draft a tackle in the second round, whatever. So now, first things first. Who are the receivers that are on this team who are actually game day receivers?
Okay, so if Hunter falls to you at 4,
yeah,
you have Hunter. If Diggs is ready to go, you have Diggs, and you have Hollins. So now you spent a lot of money in free agency redoing the defense, brought in the pieces you thought you needed to significantly upgrade the defense. Now, all of a sudden, you bring in Diggs, you got Hollins, you draft Hunter. Well, now you've significantly upgraded the wide receiver room because now you're going to clear that room out because you're going to go in with those 3 guys. They're going to be your 1, 2, and 3. Now, your 4 and 5 are going to be a combination of either Douglas, Boutte, Polk, or Bourne. I still think if you end up with Hunter, Bourne's probably the odd man out, not because he's not as good as those other guys. I think they'll try to save some salary, Chris. Maybe try to get a 6th or 7th round pick for him.
I agree with that.
I agree with that too. Which means now you got Douglas Bourne, Douglas Boutte, and to fill out the rest of that room. You got the 3 guys, Diggs, Hunter, and now you got the other 3 guys to fill out the room.
So to me, when I look at Josh McDaniels,
do they carry 6 receivers and carry them all? My guess is they'll carry 5.
No, because I think you could hide one of these guys on the practice squad if
absolutely.
you really think you need to.
Positively.
So here's what and you and I were talking about this the other night. This is what we do. We don't sleep. He calls me at midnight my time. It's 3:00 in the morning over there. It's just in full throat. He calls. So, anyway, to me, I liked what I saw in Booty. Look, you and I have been big booty. My God,
big booty. What is wrong with
big
you?
Booty fans.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, we've been fans of this player.
And Douglas, but Douglas we think can give you more.
Yeah, put Douglas aside for a minute. Booty. What I saw to him last year is, and I really believe this, I really think that this is a guy that could take the top off the field. I mean, you saw some of those sideline routes last year when May dropped dimes into him. Okay. And I liked what I saw. So that's a guy I want on this team. I have Douglas. I told you that when McDaniels was brought here, that I think Douglas becomes, well, now that they did what they did with some of these other guys, the target's going to go down. But just all things being equal, that's a guy that could potentially catch 80 balls in this type of offense. Because I still say to you that Hunter aside, on this team, this guy can go 0 to 10 yards quicker than a lot of guys I've seen in the NFL. Okay, in that range to get open. And so in this type of system, I think Douglas is the number 4. I think Booty is the number 5. I don't know what the hell we got in Baker, but I know I know everybody's high on him. I know a lot of the coaches like him. I think Polk is the odd man out. I think if you put Polk on the practice squad, I would do that and say somebody picks him up. Yeah, I don't really care.
No, I don't
maybe
really
maybe we're wrong. Maybe this guy can be a stud. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's how I see the room developing. Mm-hmm. If Hunter is here, if Hunter's not here, now Diggs is the one. Diggs is the one. Douglas, Booty,
Hollins,
sorry. Douglas, Booty, Hollins, Baker, Polk.
Yeah.
We got to draft Hunter.
Well, listen, we're going to get the wide receivers as we get closer to the draft. But I do think there's a couple of other receivers. If you don't get Hunter, Chris, that I would be perfectly okay with, because I think they're going to be studs too. But when we get closer to the draft, I know we're going to do a deep dive into the wide receivers. That I think that's the show just before the draft week, right? We're going to do the wide receivers.
Yeah, because today we're handling tight ends and we're handling linebackers. And next week we do the big guys.
So, but you're right. If we don't have a wide receiver added to the room from the draft, well, now it gets a little dicey.
Well, what do you think? Tell me what you think, McDaniels. And we talked about what can McDaniels do with Diggs. What can he do with Booty? What can he do with Douglas, Baker? How do you see them, shake it out here?
Douglas, Chris, so all things equal, Douglas, Chris, I think is going to play a hybrid role of a cross between Edelman. He's not going to be able to do what Edelman did. He's not as physical and strong as Edelman, but I do think they will put him some in the slot, Chris. I do think, though, that you will see McDaniels run some wide receiver screens with him. I think you'll see him run some more motion with him.
Like those orbit motions,
those orbit motions that he used to run that were part of McDaniels' offense. I think you'll see him try to get Douglas, Chris, in space, right? Because I think, to your point, he is quick in short space, Chris. So you got to try to utilize that to your advantage. And I think McDaniels will do that, because McDaniels' playbook, Chris, even Amendola used to get open like that in space.
Right.
Not to the extent Edelman did, but Amendola did do that as well.
Yeah, he did. No, he did. And that's why I think,
And before that, Chris, you had Troy Brown do that.
Yeah. And that's why I think, what's on behind me right now?
What are you watching now?
I think I'm watching highlight. Is that
highlight? That's still a thing?
I love highlight. My father,
used to go down to Newport. Highlight?
Used to go down to highlight, and they wouldn't let the kid. I mean, this I shouldn't say, but this was many, many, many years ago. You go down to highlight. Took us a couple times, and he had to go in and make a couple bets. He'd come out and give us some because he couldn't let the kids in there. Highlight, gotta love highlight. Anyway, yeah, Mark. Listen, I think you're right, and I'm really interested to see what he does with Booty. That's the guy I'm really wondering. Can he take a jump? Can he take a leap in this offense? Because I think he can. I think we're all going to be sitting there in midway during the season, say, where the hell did this guy come from? I do.
Chris,
that freshman year he had at LSU.
Yeah.
It's there.
Let me ask you a question. Could you have Butte run some of the routes? He's not a tight end, obviously, but could he run some of those routes in the seam that Gronk used to run?
Yeah, I mean, you could do more. If you're going to run them? If you're going to run them in the seam, you run sluggers, you run slant and goes, stutter routes.
That's what I mean.
You could do a lot of that stuff, smash routes,
that type of stuff. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think he can run. I don't know what his speed is, but yeah, can he split a cover two? Maybe, maybe.
He was funny though, Chris. There were times last year where like, wow, this kid's got potential. But then there were times where you were like, Mark, he ran a terrible route, or you were like, Mark, he got no separation. I mean, he's not getting separation. But then there were times he ran by guys. So
Right.
I don't know what the hell went on with him last year.
I don't think he knew what he was doing. I don't think he was made to know what he was doing. Listen, I'm not giving these guys.
I think the coaching room was so goddamn bad, Chris.
It was bad, man. I mean, like, and again, I'm not giving these guys an out, But before we say they all suck bad, let's see what they look like with real coaches. And speaking of real coaches, Mark,
I
want to talk about Skarnecki and Doug Marrone for a minute.
Okay.
Because let's assume they don't take a tackle or they take one in the second round or, somebody that's not a marquee top end tackle.
Yep.
Okay. I start to look at this team and I start to say to myself, why can't the goddamn coaches get some of these guys coached up? You had a stat last week. You talked about Vidarian Lowe.
Yep.
Okay. We talked about how bad he was. But when you broke down the numbers, he wasn't the worst.
No.
There were guys in the NFL who were a hell of a lot worse.
When you broke down the numbers, Chris, he was just as good as that guy Robinson from Minnesota that we didn't end up signing. His analytics were just as good.
Yeah, Robinson, did he start every game over there?
Yeah, pretty much.
So what I start to wonder is Vrabel looking at this room, this coaching room, saying, look, I got the two. I mean, Skarnecki's not a full-fledged coach, but he's there.
He's there as a consultant.
Is Vrabel sitting there saying, I got the two best offensive line guys in football, which you could argue they are.
Yeah, you could argue that.
I'm pretty confident in them coaching up Lowe, Robinson, Wallace, Strange, Brown, obviously Owinu and Moses, and whoever they draft. So to you, when you look at that, and we talk about this tackle issue, do you think this is more than a Band-Aid?
You want the kid the Jets signed last year to that 1-year deal, the guy who used to play for Dallas, Smith,
Tyron Smith. Yeah.
Tyron Smith.
He played 10 games for them last year. You get 10 games out of that guy this year. It's better than what you got now, especially with this coaching staff. My point is, I think these coaches it will never be as bad as it was last year. Put it that way. It will never, with this group. You agree?
I agree with that. With this group, Chris, it'll never be that bad, ever.
Which is why we want weapons more. Which is why we want weapons on the outside more so than we're so concerned about that offensive line. Because I think the right side of the offensive line is going to be fine.
Chris, if you sign Tyron Smith and then you take a tackle in the third round to develop a left tackle.
Or second.
Second, depending on what's there.
Kid from Oregon.
I think you'd be okay, Chris. And I think Tyron Smith, Chris, I think they're just waiting to see.
Okay, because he's a distressed asset.
What's anybody offering you? If no one's offering you anything and it's now June 1st, well, we'll give you $5 million. It's better than nothing. He'll come.
Well, I mean, you can't wait till training camp because guys are going to get hurt and then somebody's going to sign them. So yeah, I mean, listen, but I guess what I'm saying is I believe in these coaches, some of these coaches on this team, and it's time to earn your goddamn pay. It's time for the coaches to stop taking it out, stop giving them an out, earn your pay. There are some guys that are good enough on this team that you can develop into a solid offensive line using weapons on the outside to help. Protect Drake May. So that's my opinion. That's what I think.
No, I agree with that. I fully agree with that, Chris. And like you said, with Marrone and Skarnecki, who's around looking at film, giving his input, I think, listen, you got nobody better. Nobody. I'm going to tell you this. When you're going to see how good those guys, those two guys.
Yeah.
Watch how much better that center they signed from Minnesota, Bradbury plays with Marrone and Skarnecki. With Skarnecki in the background, watch how much better that kid plays.
Yeah, that's my point. Nobody talks about it. You need the talent. Of course, you need the talent.
Yeah, you need talent. You do.
But now you haven't had a real offensive line coach since Skarnecki left.
Listen, I know Brady made every offensive lineman better because of the things that he did, getting rid of the ball, reading defenses, throwing the ball away, not taking sacks. I get all that. But Skarnecchia, Chris,
worked
with garbage. Some of those offensive lines were terrible, and he made them serviceable.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
So we'll see what happens. But the weekly rewind. I'm sorry. Coach's Corner. We're in Coach's Corner now, Joe. Come on. Help me out, will you? Coach's Corner.
He's all kind of Joe. I think he's in retrograde himself.
You mentioned Kay Adams, and I haven't been the same since.
That was yesterday. I mentioned her, for Christ's sake.
Coach's Corner was presented by Corso Catone, the aforementioned show he's talking about. Saturdays, 12 Eastern, noon Eastern. Tune into that. Cotone's comments, B's and C's, Patriots talk, everything you want to bring to the table. Make sure you're tuning in. But when we come back, going to go Pat's preview, talk a little draft. Stick around.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
it.
What is wrong with
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Field. It's going to be real.
Back in with more Pat's Nation. Okay, let's talk about the draft, Mark. Let's do it in Pat's preview. Look, he's getting his notes out. He's getting ready to go.
I got my notes out. I'm ready to go.
Let's go, Joe.
Pat's preview.
I have to take my Rothsteins out for this. So we want to talk tight ends and we want to talk linebackers today. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Let's just jump right into it so we don't run out of time. Okay. So let's talk about the tight end. Let's start with the tight ends. There's a couple of guys I know you love in this draft. And I think one of them we agree on. So let's get to it.
All right. So, Chris, obviously the number one tight end everyone's talking about in this draft is the kid from
Tyler Warren.
The kid Tyler Warren, who everyone's saying, we'll trade down to 7 or 8 and take him. Well, why would you do that? Because I think this is a pretty good tight end draft, right?
Yeah,
and listen, I understand. If you like the kid's got great, he's got exceptional spatial awareness, right? He worked, especially against zone coverage, Chris. He finds his soft spots in the zone. He's a massive talent. He has great hands, catch radius, extends beyond his frame. He's got all the things you're looking for in a tight end.
We're not going to get him.
We're not going to get him, but he would be a dynamic weapon, right? But you're not going to get him. And you know, you're not going to get him. He's an absolute nightmare in the red zone. A nightmare in the red zone. He boxes out small defenders. He high points throws. He has body control, hands. He has it all. He's almost unstoppable on a 50-50 ball, Chris. You throw that kid a 50-50 ball, it's impossible. It's his ball, right? But you're not going to get him. So I don't want to hear people keep saying, well, you could trade down to 8 or 9 and take Warren. You're not going to do that.
If we had a different situation, where we had our tackle set, we had our wide receiver, you're certainly not going to pass on Hunter to get this guy.
No.
But give us some pearls of who we could see happen in day 2.
So, and this other kid who I don't like, everyone likes this tight end from Michigan.
I'm not a fan either.
I'm not a fan of him, so I'm not even going to get into him, Chris, because I really don't like him. My number one, listen, Warren obviously is the number one tight end in the draft. I get it. But after him, my number one tight end is Mason Taylor from LSU. And you and I both believe, Chris, he would be there at the top of the second round. If the draft broke down the way I don't think he'll be there in the third round. If you wanted to take him and come back into the second round, maybe.
Mark, I think he's going to be there in the 70s.
No, I don't think so,
Chris.
I do. All right.
Not because I don't think he should. I agree with you, but I just don't think. I think with the amount of edge guys, and I don't know if they're up yet, with the amount of edge guys.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you what I liked about him. He's another guy with great spatial awareness against zone coverage. Knows how to find the soft spot. I think he's a better athlete and a more fluid athlete than Warren. Believe it or not, Chris, he changes direction seamlessly. It's unbelievable. If you watched him in the combine, Chris, he demonstrated that. All right, he knows how to run option routes and seam patterns. He's reliable in clutch situations, Chris. LSU went to him more times, and he's got natural hands, Chris. He takes the ball away consistently with technique. He played against SEC competition. Okay, I'll argue he played against better competition than Warren did, playing in the SEC, and he was reliable in clutch situations, Chris. He caught a game-winning conversion against Alabama, a huge first down he caught in a game I watched against Ole Miss. He's just a real good player, Chris. He's an advanced route runner. He knows how to. He's just good. He's savvy. I love the kid, Chris, and I love Taylor. And if you ask me for one more tight end, Chris, this is a guy I think you could get in the 3rd round, maybe even early 4th round, probably 3rd round, Chris, is Harold Fannin from Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, yeah.
He's an athlete, Chris. The kid's an athlete, and
he's good. He's good enough at blocking where you could keep him in line too.
You can keep him in. He's dynamic, Chris. After the catch,
or
Chris,
as a wing back. But go ahead.
After the catch, Chris, it's almost like he becomes a running back with vision and instincts. He led all tight ends in the entire country with 873 yards after catch and 34 broken tackles. You don't see that out of a tight end, Chris. You do not see that out of a tight end. Okay. The one thing he's got positional versatility, Chris. You can line up anywhere in the formation. And that's something McDaniels would utilize. Okay. He logged, Chris, 43% of the time he was in line on snaps. He was in the slot 28% of the time, and he was out wide 27% of the time. So they moved him all over the offense, Chris, to get him open, and he did. And surprisingly, to your point, Chris, he was an effective blocker.
Yeah, and if he bulks up a little bit.
He's not the biggest guy in the world. But he can block, Chris. He's only 6'3", 241. He's not as big as Taylor. He's not as big as some of those guys. But Chris, this is a kid. Does this kid go in the 80s?
I mean, I got him ranked in the 100, 102, 103.
Okay, which means you could get him with the 2nd pick of the 3rd round, 1st pick of the 4th round.
They could be even a day three guy, maybe.
Maybe a day 3 guy.
Because
of his size, Chris. Because of his size.
Yeah.
Because he's a little smaller for a tight end, right?
Yeah. But on a team like this, where you have Henry and you have.
And do you have anybody?
Just real quick. Give me 30 seconds because we want to get the linebackers. Give me 30 seconds on Urasek out of Georgia.
Okay.
Do you like? I mean, what do you think of that kid? Because
no, he's
for
good.
me.
Tell me what you think.
Well, I mean, he didn't get a ton of usage in last season, but he has an all-around NFL ability for that position. I mean, he's best as a move tight end, like he can move him around. If he could put 5 to 10 pounds, he could be a lot of versatility, in my opinion. And I do think he runs. I'm looking the competition he played against. See, I always like the competition. So when he did get on the field, he did move some people. He did run some clean routes. But it's a guy I think, I got him somewhere in the 150s. A good day 3 kind of guy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you like him or?
I do. I like him. You know what else I like, Chris? Believe it or not, I like the kid Ferguson out of Oregon. I think he would be there late 3rd round, 4th round. He's another guy, Chris, that I think is an unbelievable pass catcher. He's not a traditional type of tight end. He's more of a receiving tight end, Chris. But but he's somebody, because you need so much help on this team. If he was there in the 4th round, I would take a flyer on him. I would take a flyer on him.
All right, let's talk about. Let's see what happens to the defense. We always get the shaft.
Go ahead. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to give you your floor. I'm not interrupting you. Go ahead.
Well, I want to know your opinion.
At the end, I'll give you one guy if you don't bring him up. Go ahead.
Right. Okay, so linebackers. I'm not going to talk about Campbell. I'm not going to talk about Walker. I mean, these guys. I'm not even going to talk about Demetrius Knight out of South Carolina because I don't think these guys. We're going to get these guys because of what we need. So let's put those guys aside. But guys, you could be looking at. In the 100. I got this guy 108. Bassa out of Oregon. Okay. Now, I typically am careful about drafting these guys out of these schools, but more so in the skill position. But this he was a former. See, I like speed.
What's
I like
his name, Chris?
Jeffrey Bassa.
Okay.
Bassa. So out of Oregon. He was a former safety. Okay. So linebacker's a new home for this guy. But despite his lower weight, like he'd have to gain a little weight, but he's not shy about making contact. He's real aggressive. He'll do the dirty work. He's smooth, moving side to side laterally. Okay. He lacks a little bit of that twitch that you want, that kick step to go side to side and so on. But he can grow into this job. He was a good leader on that defense at Oregon, and he's a great coverage linebacker. He's a guy that can go sideline to sideline. So when he gains a little bit of weight and gets to the sideline, he'll attack and he'll knock your ass out. And so I like that guy. Looking at him, maybe a late day 2 to day 3 guy is what I think about him. That's one guy that I like. The other guys, looking at a Barrett Carter, okay. This is a kid out of Clemson. Now, he's definitely a day 3 guy. All right. Got to get stronger again. Some of these guys are projects, but they got linebackers right now where you can bring these guys in. He's a versatile. He could be a good chess piece. So he could play at the weak side linebacker, which means off ball, where he's got to pick guys up on the crossers and things like that. I think he can help in that area. I think he's a good that way. So look for that guy in day 3, in my opinion. Couple of other guys. Let me get to Sam Mondin. Okay.
Well, I was waiting. I'm waiting over here
because this is my guy. Now, a lot of boards have him ranked in the 200s. Okay.
Yep.
This guy will be the steal of the draft. Okay. This guy's speed. So when his mental acuity, for the game catches up to his speed, look out. Because you see Greenlaw, this kid can do all of that and more. You talk sideline to sideline, I would be thrilled to death if they sign this guy. Okay, if they draft this guy. So he's got tons of speed. He can cover. He can go sideline. He's a good hitter. He's an aggressive guy. He's got to get the mental acuity for the position. That's what has to happen with him. But that's a guy they should be drafting. And real quick, I like Kaiser out of Notre Dame. I do. Just as one of those guys. The measurables aren't really there with him, but he's a football player. That's it. This guy's a football player. You had a guy you wanted to ask about?
Chris. Very similar to what you're looking for, Chris. Cody Simon out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Little
6'2" through 35.
235. Now, Chris, he moves like a safety in a linebacker's body, runs a 4.5 40. Translates the sideline to sideline range. He jumps off the screen when you're hunting down ball carriers. If you watch the film on this, Chris, he has great gap recognition, consistently takes proper angles. When he hits you, Chris, he hits you. His blitzes are controlled. They're violent. He's a disruptive force when he attacks downhill. He's just, and he actually shows comfort, Chris, in coverage. So what I mean by that is he's fluid in zone drops, Chris. This kid has a natural feel for passing windows and leveraging routes. When you watch the film on him, I think he'd be an early 4th round pick. I think you could get him with your first pick in the 4th round.
Yeah.
I think this kid would be there.
Yeah, I looked at him. He's definitely a project. He fits more in a 3-4 system, though. That's the thing with him. He's a traditional inside linebacker who fits really well into a 3-4 system, which I don't think we're going to run a lot of. But yes, all the points you made.
But I'm just looking at athletes.
Yeah, he definitely is an athlete, and with the proper coaching, he's definitely worth a flyer in late day 3, Mark. So,
day 3, Chris, he's an athlete. I'm not saying he's
right,
but an athlete. We're looking for athletes.
Absolutely. So that's tight end. That's tight end. That's linebacker. But we got to go. So the Pats Nation was presented by CORSO and Catone, Saturdays, 12 Eastern. Hey, while Bruins Celtics, Catone's comments, make sure you tune in. Come back next weekend. Hey, we're going to have more on the draft. Next, we're going to talk offensive line, defensive line, and so much more. We are the Pats Nation. Enjoy your Sunday.